as we welcome in our co-host, the Admiral, Bill Stubblefield, 2-star.
Good morning, Rob. It's always great to be here, especially on Friday, where there's a lot of action.
Appreciate you being here, Admiral. Also, I might add, former Berkeley County Commission president. Yeah. New York Times best-selling author John Gilstrap, because they never bother to chart the worst-selling ones. John, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Book is due middle of April.
Yes, April 15th.
How many words are you up to?
Not enough.
Hey, that's tax day. Why would you coincide that with tax day?
I don't.
That's two deadlines at the same time.
You think I set the dates on my contracts? You think that's how that works?
Yes, I do.
No,
the New York
that's
Times
not at all how that works.
You have leverage.
Yeah. Well,
Anybody local that we know is going to be killed or naturally to death this time?
I don't think so. Not on this one. Well, actually, the
is Bill in this one, or is that the
no? But
previous one.
But the real bad guy is named William Kearns. But
that was Berkeley County Health Department.
Yeah, Bill will appreciate that.
But he goes by Willie K.
Yeah. I was killed 2 books ago.
Yeah.
It was the highlight of my life or death. So it was something I can hang my hat on. If I had a hat.
And hang your book on, yeah.
Our guest in this first segment is the treasurer of West Virginia, Larry Pack. Larry, good morning. Great to have you here with us.
Good morning. Thanks so much for allowing me to come and visit with you guys.
Yeah, what brings you to the Panhandle today?
I think just to really to get out here, I got elected to represent all of West Virginia. You can't do that unless you go visit and you get around West Virginia. So we're spending a lot of time visiting businesses. We went to community college yesterday, so just trying to get out, try to understand what the issues are, what the needs are, and get to meet people.
Were you at a Blue Ridge?
Went to Blue Ridge yesterday.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Very, very impressive. I'd always heard good things about Blue Ridge from Charleston, particularly from the chancellor, but they're doing a lot of great things there and so forward-looking. I think also so nimble, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Higher ed or education itself is not very nimble usually, but you can really tell they're trying to meet the needs of the companies that are coming to the Eastern Panhandle.
I was going to say that Blue Ridge for the last several years has been one of the real instigators for companies coming, the big companies coming into the Eastern Panhandle. Macy's was involved, Procter & Gamble, you name it, go down the line. Blue Ridge is there to help them as they made their decision, and once they made the decision, to become ready to work.
I'd always heard that, but seeing it yesterday, seeing the equipment, the technology they have, seeing the students, young students, not necessarily my age, but a little bit younger than me, that was really, really good to see and talk to them, and it really makes us understand why the policy is important, why it's important to fund the community college. Did
you eat while you were there by chance?
Well, I didn't while I was there, but they sent back to the hotel with a box of cookies, and I did get into those last night, and they were way too good.
Chef Stephen Weiss.
Oh my gosh,
he's been on many of those TV shows where they have chefs competing against each other, and we try to invite Stephen 3 or 4 times a day because every time he comes in, he brings more baked goods than you can imagine.
Yeah, I went to the gym this morning, but it wasn't long enough.
Yeah, he's amazing. He really is, and that whole school is too. As you mentioned, they reposition themselves every time there's a new company moving into the Panhandle to adapt to the training that they need done to get the qualified workforce that they need.
Yeah, and it really shows how much when you have local control, when they have the ability to be nimble, the ability to make these changes. It's not top down from Charleston telling them what to do. That's one of the things I thought was really important, and I hear over and over in Charleston is why we need to give more flexibility to the community colleges. Seeing it yesterday really helps.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to stop by Potomac State this run?
Not yet. We'll do Mineral County next trip.
All right, very nice. One of the things that the Office of Treasurer does is return unclaimed property to residents of West Virginia. And I know you had a press release about that just this past week. And Carrie Odusek, his name's always on those. Carrie's, and maybe you can see a little bit of her or not. I'm not sure, but she's here in studio too. So tell me how that works and how you're continuing that process that's underway.
It's an amazing program. It's all about just trying to get people's money, get the money back to the rightful owner. So I think last month it was like $5 million. But in our, when this program started about 20 years ago, it was generally someone's savings account. They had a $50 savings account somewhere they just forgot about, they moved, whatever, or maybe a small checking account or savings bond. But it's really expanded over the years, particularly with our online economy. So it could be coupons. It could be a check that you should have got from Blue Cross that somehow it got lost. So there's lots of different directions, lots of different ways that you can have money out there that you forget about. Our job is to go to these companies and go to these different sources and make sure, and first get the money ourselves in the treasurer's office, and then try to help locate the rightful owners. And so we do a lot of stuff with databases, trying to identify folks and so forth. But we also have people, that go to different fairs and festivals and so forth, and just ask people to please put their name in the computer and see what comes up. My wife and I went to the hunting and fishing show in Charleston a few months ago, really right after I took office, and they were asking us to do it, and we're both CPAs, so we of course said no, we don't have anything on unclaimed property, but we put our names in there. So $300 we found.
No kidding.
And from 4 different places, and we're CPAs. We're supposed to know about that.
Yeah. Would it extend beyond cash or monetary? Would it include guns, for example, and automobiles?
It can include a lot of different properties. So we have a vault for all these different properties and so forth. But it's mostly cash. It's mostly cash and securities. But it could be a royalty check. There's just so many different directions and things that it could be. So I think since the July 1, we've given back around $25 million. To folks around the state. We have a liability of about $400 million of monies that we have. We're continuing trying to locate people. We don't think we can locate all of them, but we're doing the best best we can.
What happens to the property that ultimately will always be unclaimed?
What the legislature's done over the years is legislature's probably taken about $200 million of that money and used for various purposes through the state. So Treasurer Moore last year and the legislature gave about $15 million of the unclaimed property to Shepherd University for some of their improvements. That was one of the last things he did before he got out of office.
How do these items end up in the database? I mean, how do you find the $50 checking accounts has been abandoned or whatever?
By law, banks, by law, companies are supposed to send it to us. Right? By law, if they have it for a certain period of time, then they're supposed to send that to us. But we have to be aggressive to remind them, to make sure that everybody's participating, everybody's doing things they should do. And probably the easiest thing if you're ever in business, and in the old days, if you had an outstanding check that wasn't cashed for over a year, you just write it off and take it in the income. Right, so about 15 years ago, we passed a law that says, no, that's not your money, Mr. Business Guy. That's somebody else's money. Send it to the state of West Virginia, and then we'll go and try to find out whose money it is.
Well, if you don't mind sharing, I mean, you opened the door. For the $300 that you found, how did it go lost? Did it go to a wrong address, or?
Two, I don't know. There's 3 of them, but 2 of them were medical reimbursements. So reimbursements that we should have got from our insurance company that I guess we lost a check. Or didn't get the check, whatever it was. So there's things you don't think about, but you just think about all the checks, all the refunds, all the things that are kind of going back and forth, all the Amazon things going down, Targets and so forth. It's just easy to do that, particularly, and it gets exacerbated if you move.
Now, can you do this search that you were asked to do, that you found the $300? Can you do that from your home?
Yes. Yeah, you just go to Treasurer's website. It will take you to the unclaimed property and just put your name in at that point, and you can do the search there. And what happens in the search is they won't tell you how much, but they'll tell you, hey, we've got something we think is yours, and then you'll have to fill out a little more longer application.
And you identified, and obviously by your name, but also by your address, or
when you go to do the full part, the application, then we're asking for more personal information. So we're asking for Social Security numbers and more detailed stuff that we would only ask if necessary to match up, because we want to make sure it's the right bill, and the right Larry. Because as you can imagine, also in our economy, we have other people trying to try to be Bill or try to be Larry.
Larry, in our world of scams, which we see it everywhere we look, is there a risk for someone to take advantage of this program and to get one Social Security number?
Oh, there are fraudsters in every way of life. So we've got a really good team. We have retired state policemen, police officers who work in law enforcement. We absolutely have fraudulent applications trying to come up with people's money. Yeah,
I am struck by the fact that from the medical side, it may extend to others. Instead of my Social Security number, it's my date of birth now. Mm-hmm. Can you move toward date of birth as opposed to Social Security?
Probably a little bit. I probably need to get into that detail as to see exactly what it is, but it really depends on where it came from. So medical, they basically we prove the medical stuff one way, Another check may be another way. So
Sure.
I think we got 4 or 5 things trying to make sure we match up it's the right owner, because there's a number of Larry Packs in West
Yeah,
Virginia, right?
sure.
A lot. No, but we got a real good group. Matter of fact, that group's been together for many years. So really, Treasurer Perdue is the one who started the program. Treasurer Moore enhanced it. So it's a really good professional group that works through this. And really proud of them. But again, we're doing everything we can to get the money back to people. And one of the biggest things is just awareness, just getting people to check. Is the biggest thing that we do, is just getting people to check to see if it's theirs. Now we do some stuff with database. So if we think we have some of your money, we will send you a letter.
Okay.
But then you have to respond back. So and that's been a successful program. I think that's a program that Treasurer Moore started.
But the important part of the notification is you will send a letter. It's not a text.
No, it's
not
not
a
a
phone
text,
call.
not a phone
Don't
call.
respond to those things with your Social Security number.
Absolutely, never at all.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I just kind of want to change the subject a little bit to the $400 million deficit that we're looking at. Do we have an idea of how we're going to fix it?
Well, I think I'm sure you're talking about general fund deficit,
Right.
So the way I look at it is that I was former revenue secretary, so the last couple of years I did the budget for the state of West Virginia, of course, with the governor and legislature's approval. But when we left office, we felt like the budget was fine. We felt like that West Virginia had enough money to do the things they need to do. We didn't feel like the state has a revenue problem. They have maybe always a spending problem, because there's always people in the Capitol that love to spend other people's money. And they're very creative about it. So we felt like we were fine. So kind of what happened when Governor Morris's administration is, they came and they looked at all those numbers and they saw something different, which is it's really not any different than if I do my household budget and my wife does a household budget. We came up with different numbers. But $400 million on $6 billion is not enough, not a lot of gap. And I think that's how Governor Morsi spoke about it, as the gap. But a month later, when he presented his budget to the legislature, his budget was in balance. So he went through the budget, went through all the needs and wants and so forth, and he made the budget. He brought the budget in balance. So which I believe means that he fit his priorities in the amount of money that he's expected to come in the state of West Virginia.
So which columns shifted?
There's a lot of different columns that shifted. So nothing major, best I can tell, nothing major, but he just moved some stuff around. But it's just priorities. Remember, a budget is just priorities. It's priorities of the
But
governor.
he was calling it structural.
Well, that's a whole different problem. So I mean, that's a whole different issue. So on one hand, you have the gap for this year, and then you have for future years. And so in the future years, we're not really clear exactly why they think there's a structural variance going forward. I don't believe that. But if you go around the Capitol and you ask everybody, how much money do you need? There is a structural deficit forever.
Senator Jason Barrett addressed this last week, and Jason's point was that the governor submitted a balanced budget. So he felt that this $400 million deficit was just the way you described it, were things they would like to do, but things they were not obligated to do. So,
yeah, I think that's the way we look at it. And then, like I say, and going forward, what I try to explain to people or advocate for in the legislature or in the Capitol is, as our priorities change, our spending has to change. Something that we spent money on 20 years ago, we may not need to spend money on it today just because we have a new, more important priority. So I try to get people to go back, let's revisit why we do this. I'm a strong believer that the state of West Virginia does a lot of things that it doesn't have to do. Let's evaluate, is that really important? Do we need to run nursing homes and insurance companies and hospitals and lodges
And by insurance companies, I assume you mean PEIA?
Well, we have two insurance companies that we have the PEIA, but we also have BRIM.
Yeah.
BRIM provides liability insurance not only to the state of West Virginia, but also to counties, municipalities, boards of education, and nonprofits. And that company lost about $100 million year before last.
but haven't most of the counties, municipalities left BRIM to go to another insurance company?
Some have, but we still have a lot of them.
Yeah.
But again, it's lost $100 million, and there's really nothing. There's nothing government can do efficient, right? But there's some things that only government can do. And so we understand that, right? We have to build roads. We have to do schools. We have to help with economic development. We have to do with public safety. But the things that we don't necessarily have to do, basically, I'm just trying to get the conversation started.
Yeah, talking about conversation getting started, are you spending any time at all, your office, thinking about what might happen if U.S. Congress cut back Medicaid?
Well, one of the challenges of the new administration is they're going in so many different directions. So it's hard to determine exactly what's noise and what's real. So I think we're really looking at it and watching what's going on. But with respect to Medicaid, they're talking about 2 or 3 different things that I can discern. They're talking about block grants. They're talking about that we can't charge as much from provider taxes. We use provider taxes, like hospitals pay a provider tax, which helps us fund Medicaid. So what exactly they're talking about? What strings would they take off if they did that? Sometimes they're talking about not funding the Medicaid expansion. So it's just too early to see exactly what the results are. But in West Virginia, we get basically for every dollar we put in Medicaid, we get about $3 back. We have about 400, maybe 500,000 people on Medicaid, about a third of our population. Now that doesn't mean they get every benefit. They get some benefit somewhere along the way. So it's an important part of our safety net. So big changes could have big impacts, and we just have to watch that really, really closely.
You're managing $1 billion+ as the treasurer of the state, and obviously markets recently have been very volatile. Has that changed your approach in terms of how you're running any of the funds, especially for Hope Scholarship and such?
Yeah, with the state treasurer, or the state has 2 different investment funds. We have the Bureau of Treasury Investments. That's a short-term part, and they probably have about $11 million. That's short-term funds. So just think about the cash flow that state has, but it's temporary money that we're only going to have for a little bit. So that's the $11 million bucket, and then we have the long-term bucket, which is about $26 to $30 billion. That's mostly our pension funds. So with the pension fund part, you take a real long-term view. So what we're seeing in the market now is just a lot, because of all this disruption and all this talk, the market's kind of going a little crazy, lost a little bit. So you just got to kind of hold and wait through it and see what exactly the direction's going to go, and then make the adjustments. But we have. I
take exception to your word a little bit. I think it's been a lot.
It's been a lot. It has been.
Bill owns a lot of Tesla.
But do you? Okay.
I do. Yeah.
But we had a phenomenal year last year. The way that the investment management board looks at it is they have to make 7.25% in order to meet the pension obligations. We were kind of 9% last year. It's a very professional team that's been in place for many years. They do a really, really good job. But it's just all that noise, markets want predictability, businesses want predictability, and so until we get that predictability back, we're going to see a lot of movement.
Same story with the rainy day fund A and B, Larry?
Yeah, the rainy day fund is so part of that rainy day fund is short-term investments, part of it's long-term investments. So we've got about $1.3 billion. And really proud of that, because when Governor Justice came in, we had about $500 million in that fund. It increased to $1.3 billion before he went off to Washington with Baby Dog. And the reason it got up so high is we previously had a law that said half our surplus went into the rainy day fund. Legislature, I guess 2 years ago, decided they didn't like that, and they basically rolled it back. So we'll put some additional monies in there at some point, but we're not going to put as much, because they felt like we had more current needs and not so much the rainy day needs. But we're number 4 or 5 in the country as far as the amount of money in our rainy day fund. Is something we should, in relation to our total budget, we should be really proud of that.
Who declares a day to be rainy? Is that a governor decision or a legislature decision?
Yeah, it's changed. It's changed over time. So when I first started watching a little bit, even when I was in the business world, they would pull money in and out of there from time to time. The legislature before this January was basically, hey, it's really got to be bad before we take a nickel out. I'm not sure exactly where the current administration and current legislature is on it, but the last 6 years it was, we're not going to take any money out unless it gets really, really tough. The big debate was how much is enough, and I've never really been satisfied that we've had a good enough debate as to how much is enough. But $1.3 billion out of a $6 billion budget's probably it's definitely decent. I mean, again, we're in the top 4 or 5.
I'm told that there is some type of bond rating calculation that goes into percentage of rainy day fund to budget as it compares to what type of premium bond ratings you can get. Is there some truth?
Yeah, our
to that?
bond rating is made up of a lot of different things. So it's not just our rainy day fund; it's our indebtedness. And so we're in West Virginia, we're fiscally conservative. So we don't have a lot of debt on the books, but it's still in the billions. I can't tell you exactly what the number was. The last big number we did for debt was the Road to Prosperity. When Governor Justice did that just a few years ago. But they look at bond debt, they look at our pension funds. Are they fully funded, or where are they? And so we're fully funded on everything but teachers. And I think teachers, it's about another 4 years, and we'll be fully funded there. So we're also in the top 5 in that category. So from a balance sheet standpoint, we are extremely fiscally solvent in West Virginia. They also look at your ongoing revenue, and budget. So as when we worked on what we call the largest tax cut in history, which I was able to lead for Governor Justice, we talked to the bond rating folks. We said, this is what we're going to do. Here's the numbers. Here's what we see, and so forth, just to make sure they were comfortable with it. And again, they would never say go do a tax cut, but they were very comfortable with it. It has not impacted our bond rating at all.
The Road to Prosperity. Where are we in paying off those bonds?
Oh, I think it was 30-year bonds.
30 bonds.
And some, matter of fact,
Yeah.
even some of it hasn't been drawn down
Yeah.
yet because those projects are ongoing. So they're going to be out there for another 20, 25
Yeah.
years. We just paid off in the last few months the Governor Wise $200 million deal, which they did things like the Highlands in Wheeling, but that was a big project. Governor Wise back in the day, for anybody old like me that remembers that.
I think it was Senator Barrett who mentioned that the Hope Scholarship expectation was a $25 million expectation. It turns out to be a $300 million reality.
Eric Tarr, I think.
Was that
his
Eric?
name.
Okay.
Tarr, yes.
It was Eric.
Yeah.
Is that a column shifting problem, or is that a real issue?
Well, it's a real issue.
And how
I
are
was
we
in the
gonna fix it?
I was in the legislature when we passed Hope Scholarship. Very proud of that vote. But like a lot of things that happen in government, I don't even remember a fiscal note that was even talked about. We don't. I was the only CPA in the government at that time, or in the legislature at that time. And of course, in the legislative logic, I was on judiciary, so I wasn't on finance. So there really wasn't a lot of talk about the amount. Okay, right, wrong, there just wasn't. But what we're seeing, I mean, the facts on the ground is what we're seeing is that in this current fiscal year, it's about a $50 million spend. In the fiscal year beginning July 1, it's going to be about a $100 million spend. And then we're expecting for the next fiscal year, or really the school year starting in August of 26, it's going to be $300 million. So it absolutely is if that's a priority of the government, right? That's a priority of the governor, that's a priority of the legislature, then we have to really, I think, reevaluate other priorities to be able to meet that need.
And is that baked into the current budget that the governor submitted?
Yeah, so the governor put the $100 million in for this budget. He put it in 4 different line items. So about half of it was current year, and half of it comes out of the surplus for this year.
Treasurer Larry Pack, thank you so much for dropping by.
Thanks for the opportunity. Have a good day and good weekend.
Thanks.
Went fast, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When it's fun. There's something kind of saying about that, I think. Yeah. Treasurer Larry Pack, appreciate you dropping by. And next time you're in the Panhandle, please look us up again.
Will do. Thanks a lot.